What's going down, D-Gens? We're back, going 1-1 in preseason. It's not too bad. Got the monkey off the back. We get the first win for the preseason, and really for this new NFL season. Obviously, would have loved to have gone 2-0. We were relatively close to it, but that's, them's the break, right? So, going over it real quick. Steelers -1. Good pick. I know I had come on here last week and mentioned and even shown that the line had kind of moved against us. It had actually gone to Steelers +1 for a little bit. And then almost immediately after making that video, the line went back down and it went with us. So we actually ended up getting some closing line value on that one. I believe the final was Steelers -3. They covered both. I think off the top of my head, I want to say they won by like 7. So, either way, they covered for you. The other one, though, excuse me, was the Ravens -3. So if you didn't catch the last video, I mentioned, part of these videos is just to kind of go over the process and showing you guys, getting the best lines and getting out there early and all that kind of stuff. And that's why I try to make these videos as early as possible. But we got the Ravens -3. Right before kickoff, it was up to Ravens -4.5. And before that, it had gotten up to Ravens -6 for a little bit, for like at least a day, if not a day and a half, 2 days. So some people are out there laying the Ravens -6. Other people got the Eagles +6, which was a really good hedge opportunity if you had taken the Ravens -3. Either way, the Ravens didn't cover. They win the game. They win by 1. I hate to say this because I hate hearing it on the other end, but it's the right side. Just didn't get the cover, right? Just didn't win by margin. And honestly, they probably should have. They just seemed like the defense just kind of took its foot off the gas there in that fourth quarter, because they, at a certain point, were winning, but I believe it was like 6, 7, 8 points, something like that. They were covering, and then the Eagles got like a last-second touchdown where they're trying to bring it back in. It's a whole thing. And the Eagles even had a chance to tie it up, or at least go up by 1 to make the Ravens kind of work to come back and get another score and get the cover for us. They ended up not doing it, but either way, that's just the way it went. So, again, not bad calls either one. End up going 1-1. Good with it. At least, again, kind of getting that first win for the season is always good. But what are we looking at for this week? Last week, I gave you a little preview on it. One of them was Jets moneyline versus the Bucs. Second was going to be Bills Steelers over. So this is obviously a week ago, before any of the lines were out. Finally, the lines come out, and the Bills Steelers game comes out at 40.5. I believe it was actually up to 41 in some spots. Just to kind of show you both looks here, they're both at 40.5 right now. One thing I will just have you notice real quick is that GT Bets, which is the screen you're looking at right now, is considered like a discount book and doesn't seem like much, but it's -110 at my bookie, and GT Bets is at -109. So I know, again, it's a penny, right? But that does add up, especially if you're going to do this for a while, if it's something you just enjoy doing, even if it is just for like a hobby, you're not trying to get rich at it. That dollar over your lifetime, or even over 2-3 years, right? Over 200-300 bets, that's a pretty decent amount of money that you're saving from just the -110 to -109, especially if you're losing any. So that's number one. But number two, again, the line is just really high in this one. I'm honestly going to stay off of it. It does still have value. I could see this game easily blowing over the 40.5. And actually, on that note, let me just show you this real quick. So far, I believe it is something like 11-5 to the over. Yep, exactly that. So it was 11-5 to the over last week, right? So preseason week 2. If you count in the Hall of Fame game that also went over, the preseason is 12-5 to the over right now. So the over is definitely the way to look, or that's kind of been the way that these games are going. It could be a couple reasons for that. One, you're getting 5 new coaches with new teams, I should say, and they're all trying to get kind of a look at what they have. But some of these players are just coming in more developed, ready to go, and then also these joint practices. I know they've had them for a while, but it's because of COVID and kind of messing everything up for at least like those 1 to 2 to 3 years. this is the first time I'm seeing a lot of overs. If you look at this yellow line here, this is from last year. The unders were 22-8 and 1, of course, through the first 3 weeks of preseason last year. So this is a huge change. So if you're hearing a lot of people touting the unders, that's why. Typically the preseason is a time for unders where you don't see a lot of scoring, you don't see a lot of tricks coming out of the bag to get extra points on the board. This is the first time in really quite a while, since definitely pre-pandemic, since I've seen this. But either way, it's 11-5 right now, or it was last week. So that's gonna still be the way to look. But on that note, the 40.5 is just a little too high for me. I definitely see some of these defenses coming in here and possibly, kind of tamping down this total a little bit. If it ends up being like a 24 to 14 kind of game, something like that, and just missing that over, that's really going to be a pain in the ass. If I had to lean one way or the other, again, I'm going over. But I'm just going to tell you right now, unless this line comes down a little bit more, I'm personally not touching it. The Jets-Tampa Bay game, though, the Jets, I am taking that. I actually did take that earlier in the day. The Jets -1.5. It's at -2. Obviously you want to get the best number, but at this point, if you missed out on the 1.5, the -2 definitely still has some value. And that is one other note I wanted to bring up. You do hear a lot of talk about the one, right? The ones being very important. Don't lay one, just take the money line and all that kind of stuff. We have had a total of 17 games in the preseason so far this year. There have been 2 games that were decided by 1 point, which relatively big for the sample size, but it's not anything that's going to make me lose sleep over it. And there have been 2 games that have been decided by 2 points. So again, not really huge. I know it does come into play when we talk about teams not wanting to go into overtime in the preseason. I get it. Right? They're gonna do what they have to do to make sure it's ending at 4 quarters. But again, it's really only come up 2 times in this preseason, and going back before this, like I said, for at least the last 3 years, it's a relatively small occurrence. So I'm not real sure where this big movement is for this take the 1.5. If you want to do it and you believe in it and you just want that extra comfort, by all means go ahead. In this case, I'm willing to lay the 2 points. Like I said, I did lay the 1.5 earlier. This is going to be very similar, to what we talked about last week as far as the handicapping. We have one team who's just really wants to win, who actually cares about these, in the Jets. And even with that loss, Robert Saleh is now 6-1-1, so he's at 85% win rate. And then we have, let's take a look, Tampa Bay here with Todd Bowles at 7-13. His career coaching in the preseason, it's a 35% win rate. And if you watch the games, at least this past week, right, Todd Bowles just really seemed to not give a shit this last week as far as scoring or putting anything out there. Obviously they had Baker Mayfield start the game. He looked okay, I guess, but you didn't have starting receivers out there. You didn't have the starting offensive line out there. So, was it really worth it? Is he trying to send a message to Baker? I'm not real sure what this guy has going on. It doesn't scream starting quarterback to me. If you think starting quarterbacks, you're typically not going to put your guy out there with anything less than the number 1 offensive line, at least, right? Like Patrick Mahomes was not out there with all the third stringers. He had his offensive line there protecting him. So not a big vote of confidence as far as I'm concerned for Baker Mayfield. And like I said, Todd Bowles just not really pulling out any stops to try to get really anything on the board. They got to score, and that's essentially where it ended, right? The Jets, on the other hand, you saw them in the Hall of Fame game, at least in a position to win, coming down in the last 2 minutes. Again, we were on that play, or I was on that play at least. They ended up losing, but they did have a shot to pull it out. They definitely, were calling the plays like they wanted to at least give their guys a chance out there. Last week, you see them go out there, put up a really good game. They were 3-point dogs, and they come out and they get the outright win, and they just look really, really good doing it. Michael Carter looked really good doing it. These guys are signing Dalvin Cook this week. So you have some motivation coming in. So guys who definitely want to make this team. Now that you have another mouth to feed, right, in Dalvin Cook, you're going to end up having these guys play a little bit longer, trying to get a little bit better of a look at them. And these guys potentially, not that they weren't already, but definitely knowing now that they got to really bring their A game here, because the Jets are not above bringing in Pro Bowlers, right, to make this team. So everything to me screams the Jets are trying to win. They're trying to win now. They want to look good. These guys are on Hard Knocks. They're the number one story in the NFL right now. They have high expectations. Constantly in the news, even back to the Sean Payton thing. These guys are putting on a show, and they want to make it a good show, and they want to make it a winning show. So I am fully backing the Jets in this preseason, and most likely I'll be on that train even when it comes to the regular season, depending on who they're playing, obviously, but I'm most likely going to be leaning Jets a lot of the time here. I just really believe in the talent and in the way Saleh wants to play. He's not an offensive coach, in my opinion, but I like the style that he's putting out there, and he has a vision. This isn't just like, I'm just going to play defense and do nothing on offense. He has the vision on, and kind of knows how he wants to get where he wants to go. So that's it. Like I said, pretty straightforward coaching. Obviously, even on paper, right, the players, the personnel is just better with the Jets. I don't think you're going to see Aaron Rodgers this week. I know he had come out and said he's not against playing, and they thought maybe he would get some playing time at some point during the preseason. They haven't said it's going to be this week or not. I would really think if he is going to play, it probably should be this week, only because if he gets a little dinged up, right, he twists an ankle, bruises something or whatever, you give him next week to just sit it out and rest. Then the following week, obviously, is another bye week for everybody to kind of get healthy, and then you start the real games. So who knows? But as of right now, whether he does or not, with him and then Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle and Streveler, who hopefully is looking a little bit better, and then a good running back room with Michael Carter back there, who's probably going to be playing even longer. I'm assuming this guy's going to play at least the first half. Garrett Wilson's going to probably play the first quarter. Just a really good team overall at both sides of the ball, compared to a team that's got Baker Mayfield, who may or may not be the starter, right? And then you have a bunch of kind of scrubs from there. Without Mike Evans and Chris Godwin playing full speed and playing the entire game, I'm not real sure what you're going to get out of that Buccaneers team. So, again, that's enough of me harping on that. Jets -2. Grab it now, because I can almost guarantee you that line is going to continue to move, and I would not be surprised to see Jets -3 or Jets -3.5 by the time we actually get to kickoff. But the other line, and again, this is going to be another pretty similar handicap, is going to be the Bears versus the Colts, and I'm going to take the Bears +3.5. Just to go back to the coaching angle here, Matt Eberflus is 4-0 as a preseason head coach. Obviously, he's trying to win. If you didn't see the highlights from last week, the team put on a show, and Justin Fields only had to throw 3 times. Right? 2 of them were for touchdowns. Khalil Herbert with one amazing catch and run went from like a 9th round afterthought in fantasy to seemingly like a 6th or 7th rounder, and somebody who's on top of the mountain here. I've believed in the dude the entire offseason, and I think he's going to be really good, and I don't think he's going to be sharing as much time as other people are saying he is. The guy is a real running back. The guy is really good. He's a pure running back. He's going to most likely be playing in the preseason games as well. He did last week. And again, if anything, I think you see him more this week. From what I saw last year and then what we saw this week, it looks like Matt Eberflus is one of the coaches who wants to play his starters and kind of make sure their stamina is where it needs to be by the time we actually get to the regular season. So you saw them play the first quarter this week. I'm assuming you're going to probably see them play the full half this week, and then you're going to most likely see them play 3 quarters in that 3rd game before they get their bye week. So I'm fully on board with that. Aside from that, you also saw DJ Moore take a little bubble route and just house it. Again, really good. Good pass from Justin Fields. It was an easy pass, obviously, right? It's a bubble route, but good recognition, good blocking, good lane gaps, good everything. The Bears they went out there, they were going to get some scores in, and that was it. Like I said, I think you just see them build on that this week. Now, they are playing the Colts team. Anthony Richardson actually did look pretty good in his first start as an NFL player. Nothing too crazy, but nothing really bad either. He had one interception, which it sucked, obviously for him to go out there and throw a pick, but it wasn't something like egregious. He just kind of sailed on one of the passes, went right over his receiver and into the, I think the corner's hands or whatever. But other than that, pretty solid day for a rookie. Used his feet a little bit. He had one run. It was only for like 4 or 5 yards, but he just like bulldozed over somebody. So I like the way he looks. But that Colts team, when you have a guy like Sam Ehlinger, who's going to be playing most likely the entire second half, even if they have a lead in the first quarter or the first half, obviously Richardson, I'm really excited to see him play. Hopefully he plays a little bit more this week because he only really got like 2 series last week. And then you have Minshew coming in after him, who obviously he's good, but when you're taking out the other starters, right, when he's not playing with Michael Pittman, he's not playing with Alec Pierce, he's playing with a bunch of 4th and 5th stringers, how good can he really look? And then even at that, again, he's probably not playing like a huge abundance of minutes. I'm assuming he's also going to play like maybe the second, possibly the third quarter before eventually you have Sam Ehlinger come in there, who's just, we know what he is. I watched him when he played with Texas. Good quarterback, very accurate, has some mobility, nothing great. Is not going to go out there and wow anybody. They started him last year, and again, just really couldn't get anywhere with him, and I think they knew that immediately, so they just kind of pulled the plug on the whole experiment. Either way, though, the team is just not super deep. You're still having the whole Jonathan. I don't know what the hell's going on with that guy. Jonathan Taylor is just constantly something new every day, right? He's coming in, he's not coming in, he's out, he's not even with the team anymore, he's going to get traded, he's not going to get traded, he wants to get traded, who the fuck knows? All I know is that he's not really playing with them right now. He's not, going to make the trip for the preseason game, and all of this, will he, won't he kind of shit is making it really hard, I'm assuming, for that coaching staff to go all out with their backups here, because if they don't know who's going to be there, how much do you really want to push the guy you're using as your number 2? So that's another issue. But with all that being said, you also have a rookie head coach, and Shane Steichen comes from the Eagles philosophy, right? He was the offensive coordinator for the Eagles. Good play caller. I think he's going to be a good coach once we get into the regular season here. But playing under that Eagles tree makes me think that he probably doesn't give a shit about preseason. If we look at Nick Sirianni and his 1-5 preseason, performances as a head coach, I don't think you're going to see too many people from his coaching tree put a whole lot of emphasis in preseason, especially with the success they saw, right? Why should they? So I think you're going to see Shane Steichen kind of go down that same route. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 0-3 in the preseason. Maybe he will get a win. Maybe he wants to, kind of put his name out there or build some confidence in this. But after what I saw last week and him not really, I guess the way I try to look at it is in the end of that fourth quarter, if it's even close, if it's within, shouting distance and it's middle of the fourth quarter, are they still trying to put up points? Or are they just kind of running the clock out? Or let's just check out individual players at this point. And for the most part, that's what I saw. They were in the game against the Bills, but it just didn't seem like they were really putting a whole lot of emphasis on winning the game. It was more just all right, let's get some completions. Let's see what we can see here, what we can find out. And I get it. That's what the coaches are trying to do. But as far as betting is concerned, I don't foresee them putting a whole lot of effort or emphasis on winning this game. So give me the Bears, and you're going to get the Bears plus 3.5. So even if the Colts come out and they have a great game and Richardson gives them a lead and then Minshew gets some more points on the board, as long as they're not getting shut out, and I don't foresee that, and I don't see Eberflus letting his offense get off the field until they get a score, as this game will never be out of hand for us. I don't expect it to be. So give me the Bears plus the 3.5 against the Colts. And those are going to be our 2 picks for this week. So we got Jets -2, Bears plus 3.5. Let's fucking go. Let's win some money on this. Comment below if there's anything you saw standing out for this preseason week 3, anything that you're putting your money on. I'm really curious because I looked at this board and some of the lines that I was curious about just didn't really go the way I was hoping they would, and so I'm staying off of most everything else on the board. Just a quick side note, I mentioned it last week that I was going to be putting a couple dollars on the Cardinals to win their game last week against the Broncos, and sure enough, they fucking did. So let's throw some shit into a parlay. Put it in the comments. Let's see what we can put together as a team here and get some parlays going. Just go with that, that one big shot before the regular season gets here. Try to pay for the whole damn season. Lastly, like I said, guys, if you're looking at the screen and you're looking at the lines here that are in front of you, these are my 2 affiliates with MyBookie and GT Bets. Give them a look if you haven't already. Again, MyBookie's going to most likely be putting up the lines almost the entire year. They will be putting up the lines earlier than most other books, and sometimes it's the night before, sometimes it's an hour before. If nothing else, you can use them as like a frontline indicator to kind of see more or less where the lines are going to come out at. And then GT Bets, like I said, typically the slower movers, giving you a better chance to get some more time in your favor to get the line that you want. So give them a look, guys. It'll be in the comments below or in linked at the top. So thank you again. Leave me a like, a subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Y'all have a good day.